What are the most expensive cities in the United States? Life in a big city doesn't come cheap, with high taxes, soaring house prices and rents, and daily cost of living expenses prohibiting residency for many Americans. This video will break down the 7 most expensive cities in the United States, examining a range of factors including median home price, household incomes, and average salaries, so you know what to expect if you're considering moving. If you're new to our channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and the notification bell icon to get notified whenever we drop a new video. We've analyzed a range of metrics including housing prices, average rent, and overall cost of living to bring you this list of America's priciest metro areas. Here's our list of the 7 most expensive cities in the US. Coming up at number 7, we have the San Jose, California, best for Silicon Valley employees. With an average city population of just over 1 million people, San Jose is notable for its warm climate and playing host to some of the country's leading tech and biotech employers. The presence of Silicon Valley is perhaps the most significant determinant for San Jose's high cost of living, making it a huge draw for young professionals looking for work with leading tech companies. The city's median household income for over $100,000 reflects the high-profile status of these Silicon Valley industries. But the cost of living is also 68.1% higher than the national average. Public transportation is one of the leading contributors to high cost of living, although San Jose's high-quality healthcare provisions and moderate utility bills offset this. Accommodation accounts for a large portion of the cost of living in San Jose, with the median home prices of $1.1 million well above the national average, requiring an average down payment of $49,000. While you don't need Mark Zuckerberg's net worth to settle here, this expensive city still requires a degree of affluence if you want to live comfortably. At number 6 comes the OAKLAND, California, best for affordable access to the Bay Area. If you're looking to move to California, the cost of living needs to be the number 1 on your list of priorities, and OAKLAND is no exception. OAKLAND is a more affordable option for those who require access to San Francisco and other Bay Area hotspots but don't want to pay the higher price tag. Once home to one of the richest NFL teams in America, OAKLAND is the largest city in the East Bay region of the San Francisco Bay Area, with a relatively low population of 440,646 compared to some of the other expensive cities, while the median household income in OAKLAND is roughly 23% higher than the national average. The median home value sits at $953,536, considerably higher than the national average of $389,400. The general cost of living in OAKLAND is also higher than the national average, boosted by the high transportation costs and the average rent for 1-bedroom apartment of over $2,000. At number 5, we have the Washington, D.C., which is best for diverse employment opportunities. The nation's capital, Washington, D.C., is a magnet for federal government employees, with numerous agencies, lobbying firms, and think tanks providing jobs for 700,000 residents. As you would expect from a city with considerable political clout, the private sector is well represented, with defense contractors, law firms, and industry trade groups contributing to the local economy. According to economics research from the Kansas Bureau, the median household income for Washington, D.C. stands at $86,420, higher than the national average of $67,521. The daily cost of living expenses such as transportation, utility bills, and healthcare costs compare favorably to the national average. The housing market is very competitive, with the average price reaching $452,400 in 2020, according to Washington Data and Research. This high cost is compounded by an overall cost of living which, by some estimates, is as high as $143,000 annually, which is expected for a metro area with so many national institutes. The center of political and financial power through the Federal Reserve Bank, it's no surprise that Washington, D.C. is home to some of the most influential people in America. At number 4, we have the Boston, Massachusetts, best for access to high-quality colleges. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, an average annual wage for the residents in Boston is $69,240, although some jobs in the city's information and technology sector can easily earn more than $100,000. These high salaries are necessary to pay for the high cost of living in Boston, which is particularly affected by expensive housing market. Boston's median home value places them in second place, with a median home value of $719,537 and a monthly rent costing around $3,500, compared to the national average of just $1,164 in 2019. The cost of living in Boston for groceries, restaurants, and other daily expenses are higher than the national average, with a minimum recommended amount to feed one person coming in at $408.17. A key factor driving up the cost of living in Boston is the ongoing process of gentrification, which makes neighborhoods more desirable and drives up purchase prices across the board. With major universities including MIT, Harvard, and Tufts all within a short distance of Boston, the city's cost of living will likely continue to soar above the national average. At number 3, we have the Honolulu, Hawaii, best for the beach lifestyle. Hawaii is prized for its gorgeous sandy beaches lined with palm trees, perfect weather, and some of the most expensive coffees in the world. As you would expect from living in a paradise like Hawaii, the cost of living rises well above the national average across the range of metrics, despite the fact its capital city is the most isolated large city on Earth. This isolation is part of the reason prices here are so high, since much of the foodstuff and other necessities of daily life had to be imported into the island. The median home prices in Honolulu are over $1 million, while you can expect to pay upwards of $2,941 for median monthly rent. Several factors contribute to these high prices, with housing scarcity enhanced by little new construction and lower than average mortgage rates. That said, Honolulu residents who can afford to live here benefit from the stunning weather, excellent cuisine, and a coastline that is paradise for surfers. At number 2, we have San Francisco, California. Best for culture vultures. For its booming tech scene is San Francisco, famous for the Golden Gate Bridge and an electric cultural scene. As with many of the other most expensive cities in California, the high cost of living in San Francisco is influenced by high-paid tech workers who earn well above the national average. Tourism and a dominant financial services job sector bring in additional employment, with the latter contributing further to the high median household income of San Francisco. According to the living wage calculation for San Francisco, 2 working adults with 2 children would require a median household income of $152,000 to cover their cost of living expenses. This is commensurate with the high home prices in San Francisco, which can typically cost around $1,500,000 and continue to rise each year. For the fans of culture, it's a price worth paying. The city gave birth to the Beat generation in the 1950s, the hippie moment during the following decade, and remains a center of progressive culture to this day. And at number 1, we have New York City, New York. It is the best place to live for the top earners. The most expensive city in the US will come as a surprise to no one. Pretty much everything costs more in the Big Apple. From accommodation and utilities to eating out and commuting, New York City is a magnet for many of the nation's top achievers and features some of the most expensive colleges in America. As well as world-class universities, is a mix of media companies, Wall Street financial institutions, and emerging biotech and tech companies located along Silicon Alley. The average salary of New Yorkers sits around $81,000 a year, but with the cost of living at 129% higher than the national average, a high wage doesn't necessarily translate to an affluent lifestyle. Of New York's 5 boroughs, Manhattan is the most expensive place to live, with Manhattan's rent averaging $4,140 and home prices over $1 million a common occurrence. Those who can afford it are rewarded with one of the world's leading cultural hubs, with some describing it as the cultural capital of the world. This includes over 500 art galleries, Times Square and Broadway, and the Lincoln Center of the Performing Arts and Carnegie Hall. The most expensive cities in America are a highly sought-after place to live, but require a high income to afford the high living costs, from accommodation to transportation and utility expenses. We've broken down the 7 most expensive cities of them all, including how much you'd need to earn to be able to live there comfortably. Kindly like and share this video with your loved ones, and thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.